Okay, here we go. Let's talk about the diatonic chords in a minor key. This is a little bit more involved because, as you remember, when we were discussing minor in Chapter 1, we looked at 3 different forms of the minor scale. And as I mentioned then, and I'm going to say it again and again and again, you aren't in the key of C natural minor, or in the key of C harmonic minor, or in the key of C melodic minor. The entire realm of minor contains elements of those 3 different scales. So there are just different reasons, different contexts along the way in which you choose to use that raised to 7th scale degree. So I like to think of it, instead of thinking of it as 3 different scales, instead just think of a single scale that has different options for the 6th and 7th scale degrees. It makes way more sense to look at it that way, especially the 7th scale degree. And that's the one that we're going to involve here as we look at the diatonic triads in minor. So first let's start out, look at our first few chords. In C minor, of course, we're going to start with C minor. The 1 chord is, of course, minor. The 2 chord is diminished, D, F, A flat. I'm using the C minor scale. 2 is diminished. 3 chord, major. 4 chord, minor. Let's write those 4 down, and then we'll deal with this tricky subject of the 5 chord. So the 1 chord is minor, 2 chord is diminished, 3 chord is major, and the 4 chord is minor. Now, for dealing with this tricky subject of the 5 chord, I'm going to switch over to, for better for worse, my little piano cam here. Let's go back to C major for a second. The relationship between the 1 chord and the 5 chord is probably the most important harmonic relationship in Western music. That 5 chord going to 1. Root position 5, root position 1. It's the most common progression in Western music. And it's one of the most important because it's usually at the end of a piece. We usually end the piece, no matter what your piece is. You end with that 5-1. 5-1. One of the most important parts of that 5 chord is the leading tone, that T-do. Well, when we get into a natural minor scale, now we're in C minor, we don't have that leading tone in the natural minor scale. Instead, we have this te. And not that this is ugly, but it doesn't have quite the push of, you hear that T really wants to go to do, even in minor. So the reason we call harmonic minor is because that 7th scale degree, that T, fixes the leading tone for the sake of our 5 chord. Again, we're not going to write a whole piece in harmonic minor because we need to use that te for other reasons. It's part of the 3 chord. And 3 chords happen. chords happen in a minor key. So we're not going to change every 7th scale degree to T, but we are going to change it on the 5 chord. 5, 7, and 1. So let's go back and let's change that T, or that te, to T. Again, it's for the sake of the 5 chord, we alter that note. The 6th chord is still diatonic to the natural minor scale. And then the 7 chord, we find historically that when composers use the 7 chord in minor, they tend to also use the T. The 7 chord and the 5 chord have a similar function. This is chapter 6 stuff, but we can still point this out. They both like to push into the 1 chord. This is for major or minor keys. 5 chords and 7th chords lead us to 1. That was a series of 1, 7 diminished, 1, 7 diminished, 1. So again, this is based on observation, on analyzing thousands and thousands of pieces of music over the centuries. We find that composers, when they use that 7 chord, tend to use the 7 diminished. I'm going to take this out of here just so we don't confuse ourselves. Okay, so that is our standard set of diatonic triads for the minor key. Let's see what happens when we put the 7th on those. Look, I've already altered T for the 5 chord and the 7 diminished. And let's see what happens with these 7ths. We can do this on our keyboard here. Okay? Just like before, when we have a minor triad, it becomes a minor 7th interval. For the 2 diminished, it's got to be either half diminished or full diminished. In this case, again, whole step down gives us a half diminished. 2 half diminished. 3 major 7. 4 minor 7. 5 dominant 7th, just like the major key. 5, 7 is the same for major and minor. Dominant. 6 major 7. And then 7, remember, we're going to build not off of te, but off of T. 7 diminished chords are always built off of T. I'm going to say that again, and then you're going to repeat it. 7 diminished chords are always built off of T, the leading tone, a half step down from the tonic. So when we add a 7th, and this is a diatonic 7th, there's our full diminished. And that's only the one place where the 7 diminished happens, is on the 7/7 in a minor key. Let's go back and write those in. The 1 chord was a 7. Good old minor 7. 2 chord, half diminished 7. 3 chord was a major triad, and now it's a major 7th chord. And remember, you always need an M whenever you're identifying a major 7 chord. The 4 chord was a minor triad, which means it simply becomes a minor 7th chord. 5 chord is a dominant 7th, so all you do is just put that 7 on there. 6 chord was a major triad, and now also needs the M because it is a major 7 chord. You only need the M on major 7th chords. There are no other chords that require an M as part of the Roman numeral analysis. And then the 7 diminished is the 1 chord, the one time you find a 7 full diminished 7. 7, 7 in a minor key. So there they are, our diatonic 7th chords in minor. Memorize them. Major 7, half 2 half diminished, 3 major 7. Sorry, I said major 7. This is minor 7. 2 half diminished 7, 3 major 7, 4 minor 7, 5 dominant 7th, or just 5 7, 6 major 7, and 7 full diminished 7. There they are. Strongly encourage you again, play these on the keyboard, really look at them, really listen to them, and from this point forward, where do we use T in a minor key? 5 7 or 5 triad has T, and the 7 diminished is built off of T as the root. All 7 diminished chords are always built from T, major or minor keys. 7 diminished chords built from the leading tone a half step down. There you go. Learn them. Bye.